لميقات يوم معلوم. ثم إنكم أيها الضالون المكذبون لاكلون من شجر من زقوم فمالئون منها البطون فشاربون عليه من الحميم فشاربون شرب الهيم هذا نزلهم يوم الدين هذا نزلهم يوم الدين نحن خلقناكم فلولا تصدقون أفرأيتم ما تمنون أأنتم تخلقونه أم نحن الخالقون نحن قدرنا بينكم الموت وما نحن بمسبوقين ألا أن نبدل أمثالكم وننشئكم فيما لا تعلمون ولقد علمتم النشأة الأولى فلولا تذكرون أفرأيتم ما تهرثون أأنتم تزرعونه أم نحن الزارعون لو نشاء لجعلناه هطاما فظللتم تفكهون فظلتم تفكهون إنا لمغرمون بل نحن محرومون أفرأيتم الماء الذي تشربون أأنتم أنزلتموه من المزن أم نحن المنزلون لو نشاء جعلناه أجاجا فلولا تشكرون أفرأيتم النار التي تورون أأنتم أنشأتم شجرتها أم نحن المنشئون نحن جعلناه تذكرة ومتاعا للمقوين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم فلا أقسم بموقع النجوم فإنه لقسم لو تعلمون عظيم إنه قرآن كريم في كتاب مكنون لا يمسه إلا المطهرون تنزيل من رب العالمين أفبهذا الحديث أنتم مدهنون وتجعلون رزقكم أنكم تكذبون ولولا إذا بلغت الحلقوم وأنتم حينئذ تنظرون ونحن أقرب إليه منكم ولكن لا تبصرون فلولا إن كنتم غير مدينين ترجعونها إن كنتم صادقين فأما إن كان من المقربين فروح وريحان وجنات نعيم وأما إن كان من أصحاب اليمين فسلام لك من أصحاب اليمين وأما إن كان من المكذبين الضالين فنزل من حميم وتسلية جهيم إن هذا لهو حق اليقين فسبح باسم ربك العظيم صدق الله العلي العظيم صلوات اللهم صل على Inshallah, I recite a Marsiya in Farsi. So we start as usual with salam to Imam. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي هلت بفنائك عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بغيت وبغي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين صلوات الله عليهم أجمعين الذين بذلوا مهجهم دون الحسين عليه السلام. This is about Hazrat Ali Asghar. So it's basically Imam is taking Ali Asghar to the army of the Yazid and ask them to give him some water. شاهدین گفت ای جماعت تشنه کشتید اکبرم از جفا کشتید هم عباس و اونا جعفرم. So you just killed all of them and they were thirsty. از آتش مدهوش گردیده علی اصغرم از آتش مدهوش گردیده علی اصغرم چیست تقصیر و گناه کودک بیاورم شیر خوار است اصغرم بیقرار است اصغرم ای گروه بی وفا رسم وفاداری چه شد ای گروه بی وفا رسم وفاداری چه شد مهمانداران طریق مهمانداری چه شد گر مسلمانید این آیین دینداری چه شد گر مسلمانید این آیین دینداری چه شد سوخت از سوز آتش این طفل نیکو منظرم شیرخوار است اصغرم بیقرار است اصغرم گر گمان کردید خواهم آب بهر خویشتن. If you think I am asking water for myself, you take him and just give him some water. گر گمان کردید خواهم آب بهر خویشتن یک نفر آید بگیرد این صغیر ممتحن سازدش سیراب آرد در خیامش نزد من ساقی کوثر بود هرچند مام اطهرم شیرخوار است اصغرم بیقرار است اصغرم الا لعنت الله علی القوم الظالمین و سیعلم الذین ای منقلب ینقلبون. صلوات. So without further ado, I would like to invite Maulana to the podium. Again, on the behalf of the community, I really appreciate him for coming here for these 3 days. And inshallah, you all would benefit from his lectures. And then inshallah, he will come in future more often here. And thank you for being here. Salawat. برای خوشنودی آقا امام زمان صلوات. برای تعجیل در فرج آقا امام زمان صلوات. برای ظهور در ظهور آقا امام زمان صلوات.
اللهم صل علی محمد و آل محمد. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين، سيما بقية الله في الأرضين، عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. اللهم كل وليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقائدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك توعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين عليه السلام. السلام عليك يا أبا صالح المهدي عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف. Please recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajal faraj. Last night, inshallah, we began our conversation on a Quranic model for raising children, for human development, ways that we can aspire towards planting seeds of love of Ahlul Bayt, love of the Sunnah of the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and to encourage personal transformation. Now, we said that as parents, as caretakers, as role models, as elders of the community, mentors, whatever role that we play, we of course have a responsibility that comes, and one that is so sensitive and that is so consequential that we find it in the description of the characteristics and the tasks of the prophets. We also said that it's not an easy thing to do, but alas, we find ourselves as Muslims with this guidance and instruction, with a hope that if we were to put into practice those divine instructions that we find in the Quran, that we find in the Sunnah, that we can have a great amount of confidence that we will bear the fruit that is promised to us in the Quran. Like we said last night, there are very few guarantees in life. But the reason why we have hope, the reason why we have this drive is because Quran gives certain promises to us. And we believe in these promises. These are our convictions. And because of that, if we put into practice these instructions, we should also feel confident that we will arrive at those places that the Quran promises us. So we said one of these models that will allow us to kind of use, to build off of, is that of the story of Prophet Adam and Lady Hawa alayhim salam, as they are kind of in this discourse, the first humans, or at least kind of like the beginning of this lineage of creation. And because they are human as well, they were in need of this same type of development, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shares this account of their time in this garden to demonstrate to us what these basic principles are. So we said there are 7 of them that we can extract, and last night we shared the first of them. We hope that tonight, inshallah, we'd be able to go through the 6th other. We're going to have to pick up the pace a bit. What was the first one? We said early in the story of Prophet Adam and Lady Hawa alayhi salam is this notion of building a strong educational foundation, because Allah knows that they will be tested, that they will require kind of like the right skills to make correct decision making. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala began this by laying that educational groundwork. In ayah 31 of Surah Al-Baqarah, we read Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. So Allah taught Adam alayhi salam all this Asma'ullah that prepares him now for the life that he is going to live, and so too that of his companion Hawa. So we shared a few points last night about this, the fact that we are surrounded by information, that we live in a world of information. What does it mean for us to aspire towards gaining the right type of information? We shared a riwayah from Imam al-Qadim alayhi salatu wasalam that speaks to the idea of how we should prioritize knowledge and what the valuable knowledge is. And he summarized it kind of at the end of this riwayah that I'll share again. فَلَا تَشْغِلَنَّ بِعِلْمِ مَا لَا يَذُرُّكَ جَهْلُهُ. Do not consume yourself, do not occupy yourself with a knowledge that its ignorance will not harm you. وَلَا تَغْفُلَنَّ عَنْ عِلْمِ مَا يَزِيدُ فِي جَهْلِكَ تَرْكُهُ. And also do not be negligent of a knowledge that its abandonment will increase your ignorance. So try to proximate towards acquiring knowledge, acquiring an education that has, kind of direct consequences in the life that you want to live, the life that you should be living. So we spoke about this briefly. One final point that I'll make before we move on, beyond just the type of information that we're learning, there's also concern that we find in the tradition of who is playing the role of the educator. Now in this example we have عَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the educator, is the teacher, and the student here is Prophet Adam. No issue there. But though we are taught by Allah in many ways, first and foremost through this primordial nature that we have, this fitrah, this God-given nature that we have, that kind of, in that we understand the basics of what right and wrong is, right? فَأَلْهَمَهَا فُجُورَهَا وَتَقْوَاهَا. So we know that in addition to that, we are surrounded by Asma'ullah. Right? The world that we're living in, all of creation, these are all signs that point to God. So for the seeing eye, for the hearing ear, all of them are able to see this, reflect on it, and then kind of connect that knowledge to the holistic knowledge and the reality that is God. But beyond that, usually the knowledge that we receive is through other parties. Now, indirectly comes through the form of revelation, indirectly comes through the form of prophetic education, indirectly comes through the sunnah of the Prophet and the teachings of Ahlul Bayt that are shared with us. But whatever it is, those channels of teaching have to come through educators. And again, what the tradition tells us is that be wary not just of the contents of what's being taught, but who is teaching. And both of these can be captured in statements that Ahlul Bayt make to try and draw attention to this. Now this is an example I'm narrating from Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam, but many of other A'immah, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Many of the other A'immah also have kind of an instruction very similar to this. Narrated from the Imam says, عَلِّمُوا سِبْيَانَكُمْ مَا يَنْفَعُهُمُ اللَّهُ بِهِ. Teach your children that which God has made beneficial for them. So we learn from this not just appropriate knowledge, what does your child need at that time, but also the things that God has designated to be beneficial, right? Not necessarily other people. In addition to that, he says, do this, لَا تَغْلِبُ عَلَيْهِمُ الْمُرْجِعَ بِرَأْيِهَا. Teach them these things before a competing party comes and tries to beat you to that education. So in this particular riwayah, it says the Murja. Murja were a competing, kind of like considered misguided, deviant theological group. And, kind of one of their basic teachings was that we should not judge based on a person's actions, generally misdeeds, who falls in or out of the fold of Islam. We could acknowledge the person does something wrong, but it is not for us to say this person is or is not Muslim anymore. Some of these conversations we even find in contemporary times. A person orients themselves with a certain type of action, with a certain type of identity. So is this person Muslim or not? One group yells, they are not Muslim because Islam says this, and that, so they are out. Other group says, we should accept all people, it is not for us to decide. Murja, more or less, we're saying that it is for God to judge, and we suspend any judgment until the day of judgment for them. Whatever, you say that's not such a bad thing, right? But Ahlul Bayt were saying, be careful. You teach your children first, whether you directly or through the educational foundations that you set up, before a group like this comes and teaches your children. How does that translate in today's world? It is first to acknowledge that you and I, but specifically your children, they are valuable not just to us and what we want to realize in their futures, but to, in a free market, anyone else that is half intelligent knows there is a potential for this child to also, kind of benefit me in some way. So I invest. I invest my time to plant seeds that either now or later are going to bear fruit. Now you already know your children are so impressionable. They are consumers like you and I, right? So if you say, well, I don't have any particular intentions of teaching best consumer practices to my child, the multi-billion-dollar company most definitely will, because they have a product to sell him or her. So when it's time for your child to go buy a shirt, they say, well, I want it, the one that has this graphic on it, because I've seen it in my cartoons, I like it. Maybe this is a conversation to have another time, but I was blessed in this past Muharram, the community asked, listen, can you talk about like smartphones and YouTubes, and a lot of our kids are doing that. Sometimes they come into Majlis and we want to give them the benefit of the Majlis, so then let them watch their cartoons, and at the same time they're sitting here, so alhamdulillah, it's a compromise. But these are multi-billion-dollar corporations that are producing content for, me and you, but also for our children. So maybe there's no murja. You say, no deviant group I allow in my house, right? Only maximum lover of Ahlul Bayt. But the TV is there, right? The computer is there. The phone is there. The tablet's there. Beyond that, there are seeds that need to be planted. Listen, any educational system, any educational philosophy that you study, they will tell you, educators and scholars of education, that every system has a moral goal that it's pursuing. It is trying to mold the student into a certain type of a person, right? So whether this is explicit or not, you say, well, my kid goes, again, like I said, my kid goes and learns math. Math is so neutral. Math doesn't care whether you live in communist country or a democratic country. Math is math. Okay, no problem. Teacher is teaching math. So whether it's implicit or explicit in the way that they're educating the child, they want to develop a certain type of student as a graduate. So you're living in a particular socio-political context. What does an aristocracy want? Aristocracy wants gentlemen to be produced out of the educational system. What does an oligarchy want? It's people who respect. What does a monarchy want? People to be respectful and value and pay condolences in the middle of Safar Arba'in, to send condolences to Queen and royal family. It's almost as if instead of musibah we have to recite musibah for royal family. That's the educational system, what it wants. But I learned the best math. You also learned something that, Queen becomes your role model. And if you think this is like a satire, this is the real thing. Go on your social medias and find these jama'ats. Go these of these kind of jama'at. That they are so quick to send not just their condolences. We're humans. We say, okay, I'm sorry, you're grieving. I'm sorry to, but also just kind of write these statements. Great praise. Rawaya says when a scholar of religion dies, a crack falls into the to the fold of Islam, that it can't be replaced. Some of these messages that are sent from Jamaat, Shia Jamaat, that's the kind of thing. Oh my God, the world lost such a. What are you talking about? But this is not the result of coming in Majlis. No one tells them that, Queen Elizabeth, this, and that. Prince William, this, and that. But in the educational systems, you better bet that these seeds were planted. Why? Because the educational system wants a certain type of person to come out. So no murja today. For the most part, there aren't really any followers of murja. But I'll tell you, there's plenty of people who are sympathetic to the monarchy. Right? Now, it is not for me to tell you how to orient yourself politically. It's not my field of study, and it is not whether it's appropriate or inappropriate. I don't know. You generally community dynamics will dictate these things. You go out of line, they'll give you a reminder, and sometimes they'll just prematurely end the program. So we're not getting any vibes here, but that's not my intention. The larger point is this. The larger point is that though there are no murja, there are definitely others in the marketplace of a competing worldviews that exist. If you and I are not there first to establish a way of looking at the world and a way of engaging the world, someone else will come and do that because this is an investment here. And it will pay off, tenfold, 100-fold if they're able to nurture the child throughout their lifetime. Now, we already know some examples of these, but these are the most, flagrant of them. Some of those that were older than us know, like what was the tobacco industry doing in kind of propagating the attractiveness of smoking even to kids 30 years ago, 40 years ago, right? Totally. You think of it right now, you look at the cigarette pack, smoking kills and shows your lungs after. But 40 years ago it wasn't like that, right? Same things. What are the same things that are being kind of like taught to your children or being, commercials that are being trying to attract your children to, same thing, to become consumers of those things. So sometimes the consumerism is in an economic way. Sometimes consumerism is in a political way. Sometimes consumerism is in an economic way. Ahl Bayt said, get there before others do. So as a part of that education, it says, "Allimu sibyanakum." It didn't say, "Allimu your bachelor who's going to get married." It didn't say that. It says, "Sibyanakum," your children. The ones that you think are too small or not intelligent enough to understand these things. Teach them. So this is also another, وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. How can you expect your child to make Islamically informed decisions of the way that they live their life without a strong educational foundation? Oh, my kid stays awake all night and plays Dota 2, Fortnite, whatever. Okay. What did you tell him to do? You told him to do his homework, and he did. You told him to go to school, and he did. And you told him to eat his food, and he did. Now he's playing all day and night. You told, he has to sleep because this isn't that. Did you tell him why? Did you tell him Islam approves it? Did you tell him what it means to have a balanced life? Okay, so this is the first thing. وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Next, a few ayahs after ayah 31. وَقُلْنَا, and we said, يَا آدَمْ أُسْكُنْ أَنْتَ وَزَوْجُكَ الْجَنَّةِ. We said to them, Adam, you and your wife reside, dwell in this garden. وَكُلَا مِنْهَا رَغَدًا حَيْثُ شِئْتُمَا. And consume, say eat, consume whatever you want as you wish. وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ. And do not get near to this tree. فَتَكُونَ مِنَ الظَّالِمِينَ. And if you do so, you shall be amongst the oppressors. Okay, so there are a few things we want to extract from this ayah as a part of this constructing this developmental model. Number one, there are clear expectations set. Clear. There's a garden. Allah says, you're allowed to live here. You're allowed to use from whatever you want. The exception that I make is, don't get near this tree. Allah is the most articulate, but it's teaching us the importance of setting clear expectations. What are the clear expectations in our developmental models for ourselves and our children? List them. Allah has listed it very clearly. You can do this, you can't do that. No, my child knows. She knows me. He knows. No, they don't. No, they don't. This is after وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. Imagine you put a hard drive on your kid's head and you downloaded all the information of the universe. Still after that, Allah says clear guidelines. Your child is intelligent. Your child loves you. Your child is good, innocent, masoom. Doesn't mean you shouldn't be clear with them. Now, sometimes you say, I'm not articulate. Lack of articulation has many reasons. You can say, okay, you're not very gifted like myself. I'm not a very articulate person. No problem. I have other gifts, alhamdulillah. But sometimes lack of articulation is because you don't know what you want to say. Just making it up as you go. Today you can watch 1 hour of TV. Tomorrow you can watch 90 minutes of TV. Today, no TV. Where's the consistency? So setting clear expectations. Where are we supposed to get these clear expectations from? Brother, you're making things very difficult for us. First place we're supposed to look is because, look, the Sharia itself is what? Sharia itself is supposed to set up some clear expectations for us. This is how you've been created. These things are good for you, do them. These things are not good for you, don't do them. These things are better if you do them, mustahab. These things are not so great, try not to do them, makruh. And there's some things that you do as your personality, which mubah. So Sharia is there to lend assistance to us in organizing a balanced life, to aspire towards that equilibrium. So for us, the first important thing in establishing that developmental foundation is that we make sure our models are informed by what the Sharia is saying. How can you have a developmental model that is not in conversation with Sharia, and the Sharia is not dominant? Now here come the points of good education of what the Sharia actually is. Now, it is not me to decide or speak or again to judge on anyone. I felt like I had a shortcoming, I had a poor understanding of the Sharia. Allah put this idea in my mind, you go to Qom. I went there and I said, there's a lot to learn. Oh, this is interesting. Oh, this is consequential. Study, stayed for however many years. And I said, bro, I can't. I have this obligation, I have that obligation, I have this mortgage, I have this debt. I can't. No problem. Whatever kind of meets your needs, there has to be some base of appreciation of what the Sharia even is to begin with. Now, it's so expansive, you're going to be learning every day. Oh my God, I'm 65, I just learned that, I was doing this wrong. It's okay, Allah will forgive you. Hopefully you were not totally negligent, but just because you didn't know, no one's going to beat you upside your head because you didn't know everything in the beginning. No, it's okay. But if you're totally, like Quran says, forgive me, deaf, dumb, and blind, summun, bukmun, umyun. Oh, I didn't know that, my kids had to not watch certain things. Huh? What? I didn't know it was important to raise my children to do this, and that. These are the basics. So having an appreciation of what the Sharia says. Don't look at the Sharia as a restrictive, antagonistic imposition on your life. It is not that. It is a suggestion. It is a call. It's all volunteer, right? La ikraha fid din. No one's going to say, become Muslim or, no, those days don't exist. You live in a free world, free country. You can do and be whatever you want. No one's holding a gun to your head, and it's Texas here. No one's holding a gun to your head. Sharia is saying, this is an invitation with what I think is balanced living, considering your nature, because I created you. Live it. So in setting these expectations for your children, for our children, for ourselves, the Sharia should be central. The Sharia says this, that, and that is acceptable. Now, if your child asks why, you should say, good. That's a good question. This is the reason why. Or I don't know. Let's go figure it out. But all the plans that we have for our children from the early age until Islam has at least some instruction, even if it's as simple as for the first 7 years, let your child be free. Even if it's that much, that one statement, at least it's giving some direction. Now you repress the child. You have to go to school for 9 hours a day. Because, you're never going to become like principal engineer at Google if you don't. No, Baba, the kid's like 6 years old, 7 years old. Nothing's going to happen, I promise you. But if the Sharia is giving basic instruction, because it's telling you, following it will generally lead to good results. Ignoring it, rejecting it, will likely lead to some detriment. So as a Muslim community, we need to do a good job of that. As families, as parents, we need to do a good job of that. See what the Sharia has to say. And the more we are compliant, it's easier for our children to also be compliant and appreciate that too. I shared this in passing. There's a hadith, a tribute to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, that speaks to one of the pains of end of days. Recite salawat ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. It says, أنه نظر إلى بعض الأطفال. The Prophet, looked to some of these children. فقال ويل لأولاد آخر الزمان من آبائهم. Again, I'm not saying this is a sahih hadith or anything like that. It's in our tradition. It says, woe unto the fathers of the end of times. Woe unto the parents of the end of times. فقيل يا رسول الله من آبائهم المشركين. Oh, you're talking about the mushrik fathers, right? The ones who don't have anything to do with religion, no Islam, no majlis, no love of Ahlul Bayt. فَقَالَ اللَّهُ مِنْ أَعْظَامِ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ. No. Mushrikin, they're living their own life. You know, they already know kind of what to expect. I'm talking about believing people. لا يعلمونهم شيئا من الفرائض. The parents are not teaching their children anything of the fara'id means like the do's and don'ts. The ones you like wajib and haram. Not mustahab, not mubah, not night prayer, not any of that. So, basic things. Your hygiene is like this. Your obedience to God is like this. Your contribution to larger society is through this means, like zakat, like sadaqah. Your pilgrimage, these things. وَإِذْ تَعَلَّمُوا أَوْلَادَهُمْ مَنَعُوهُم. Sometimes they even teach them these things and say, you don't need to do this, that's okay. Baba, you have final exam. Yes, it's month of Ramadan, but Allah is Kareem, Rahim, Ghafoor. Final exam. Princeton, Stanford, USC, UT-Austin, whatever. Wherever you want your kids to go to school. وَرَضُوا عَنْهُمْ بِعَرَضٍ يَسِيرٍ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. They're okay. Their children superficially associate Muslim. Alhamdulillah, his name is Muhammad and not Mo. Barakallahu feek. Oh, set the standards higher. فَأَنَا مِنْهُمْ بَرِيٌّ وَهُمْ مِنِّي بُرَاء. The Prophet says, I don't want anything to do with these kind of people. I'm disassociated from them, and so too they are from me. So again, I'm not saying that we're like this. I have to speak for myself. I have a lot of problems. And I'm struggling kind of like to be a good parent and to raise Muslim children. But the basic point is this: if there's nothing in our educational programs that allows our children to gain an appreciation of what the Sharia is, especially and then they become baligh, they become responsible and they don't know, Ya Allah, I don't have any, I have very little involvement in the community. I'm not one of those people that you pick up your phone and call in the middle of the night because you have a problem and you need consultation. But from the very little that I've engaged with, you would be surprised the amount of young people that come to state of bulugh, don't know the basics of the Sharia, have not gone through the Risala once, don't even know what is expected of them. They may have a party, they don't know what the party's for. It's a celebration, alhamdulillah, or baligh now. Okay, so what? What am I supposed to do now? I don't even know. Right? Imagine you sign your child up to go to the army, and so one day you celebrate, time to go basic training. Child, I don't even know what I'm doing. Where am I going? Why am I going? When it comes to state of bulugh, Islam says they are contributing members of the community. They have responsibility. You can depend on them. Some children don't even know what's going on. Can't tell left from right in the Sharia. Now, again, this is not to censure. I'm not saying bad parent, bad parent, bad parent, bad parent. Listen, parenting is tough. We said it last night. We're saying if we follow kind of like the plan that we have right now, are we aspiring to a point where when our children come of these ages, they have a basic appreciation? Or no, we aren't doing this and we're waiting for some miracle. We're waiting for some Hail Mary. Come on, can't live in those kind of worlds. Okay, so that's the first point we made of this ayah. So that there has to be clear expectations. And we can do that. We don't have to know everything, but the very little that even we understand from the Sharia will go so long. We get so much mileage out of that. Okay. Second thing that the ayah is saying. The ayah is saying, Ya Adam, uskun anta wa zawjika al-jannah, wa kula minha ragadan haythu shi'tuma. You can take pleasure and benefit from whatever you want. It is your choice. Notice how Allah leaves everything open for them. Right? Everything is open, but there's one restriction. Now you may say this is a symbolic restriction. Just wants to test their servitude. And there's nothing essentially wrong with this tree. It's just a test. But whatever it is, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, listen, you have certain needs, you have certain wants, you have certain desires. You're allowed to express yourself. You're allowed to enjoy yourself. As a part of the developmental model, the general attitude should not be a repressive one. You are Muslim, so you cannot do this. You cannot be human. You're trying to make a human, you're telling me don't be human. No. And especially for younger people, it's really important to first understand, and then for those leisures that are healthy and are constructive, to be supportive of them. There's a riwayah from our imams that speaks about, you've heard of these things, how to organize your day. How should you break up your time? Right now we have 8 hours of sleep, hopefully. We have 8 hours of work, maybe an hour to commute. We have an hour for leisure, whatever. This is how we break up our days. Riwayah says, اجتهدوا أن يكون زمانكم 4 ساعات. And some of these riwayahs says, break it up into 4 parts your day. ساعة منه لمناجاته. Oh, mashallah. Okay. This is Islam, is riwayah. The first one of your hours, not 1 hour, but a block of your time should be designated towards servitude, worship of God. Munajat. You do daily salat, you can do some Quran, you can read some dua, whatever. You want to help your parents. Munajat. وَسَاعَةً لِأَمْرِ الْمَعَاشِ. It's a quarter here. 1/4 of your time should be spent to acquire and attend to the affairs of your livelihood. That can be your work. That can be whatever else you want to do. Manage my investments, portfolios, whatever, real estate. That's okay. You need these things to live, so you should make sure you dedicate time to it. وَسَاعَةً لِمُعَاشَرَةِ الْإِخْوَانِ الثِّقَاتِ وَالَّذِينَ يُعَرِّفُونَكُمْ عُيُوبَكُمْ وَيَخْلُصُونَ لَكُمْ فِي الْبَاطِنِ. A quarter of your time or a portion of your time, I'm not saying these are equally organized, but a portion of your time should also be spent to socialize. You should have a social life. It's a balanced living. Oh, I'm working all day. Oh, I'm studying all day. Oh, I'm sleeping all day. No. You should have a social life too. But it says even there, it's telling you the people you should be associating with are those who are thiqat. Thiqat means people, thiqat means someone who is heavy. Thaqalain, 2 heavy things, 2 weighty things. Thiqat means people who are established. People who are trustworthy. And people, وَالَّذِينَ يُعَرِّفُونَكُمْ عُيُوبَكُمْ. People that when you're in relationship with them, they're going to bring to your attention faults that you may have. They're not like people looking for problems. Oh, by the way, this. No. But if they see something, they're not going to turn away from it and not tell you. You got spinach in your teeth? These kind of friends are going to tell you, oh, you guys, something over there, take it out. Okay. Or you're not, your akhlaq is not great today. What's going on? Because they care for you, they love you. And they're sincerely cared. They're not looking to take advantage of you. Oh, I hang out with Qasim because I like to have a good time with him. Anytime we go out, he always pays for dinner. So I like to hang out with him. No, not like this. People actually care for you. You're making a mistake, they're going to stop you. Okay, so this is the third. وَسَاعَةً تَخْلُونَ فِيهَا لِلَذَّاتِكُمْ. There should also be a time that you spend for your leisures, for your pleasures, the things that kind of make you happy, things that bring a little bit of excitement in your life, if not already in those 3 things. I'm so tired, I'm burnt out, working so hard, whatever. I want to go see a movie. Okay, let's go together. Hopefully you don't waste your money seeing a garbage movie. See a good movie, has a good story, has a good whatever. Not just every 5 seconds something's blowing up and all these things. See a movie worth your time. But whatever, Imam says, make time for that. And interestingly, this qualification goes, وَبِهَذِهِ السَّاعَةِ. This last one, this leisure, تَقْدِرُونَ عَلَى 3 السَّاعَاتِ. Through this, you become capable in performing in those 3 other ones. Oh, my child doesn't do good munajat. I don't hear him crying when he or she is doing their salat. Okay, one possible area of investigation is their leisurely activities balanced? They would say, oh, they're having too much fun. Okay, maybe we're going to scale back a little bit. But if there's not enough, that they're so under so much pressure and so much pressure and so repressed, then make sure that's there, especially for younger people. I know we're running against time. Let me share one story from the life of Imam Ali alayhi salatu, and then we'll continue tomorrow night. Imam alayhi salam obviously had many people that he cared for, and he had people that were workers in his house. They were dependents of his. One of them is a worker by the name of Qambar. So Imam goes to Qambar and says, Qambar, I want you to go in the market and run this errand for me. This is not an uncommon thing. Go buy food, go buy this, whatever. He said, Qambar, I want you to go to the market and buy 2 shirts. We need a shirt. It's time for me to, and Imam. Imam is a person that, if he can sew this shirt and reuse it, he's going to use it until time of expiration. But in any event, the Imam says we need 2 shirts. So he gives him money and he sends Qambar to the market. So Qambar takes the money, he buys 1 shirt, costs 3 dirham, 1 shirt costs 2 dirham. Okay, comes back to the Imam. And the Imam tells him, Qambar, I need a shirt and you need a shirt. I want you to have the 3 dirham shirt. I'm going to take the 2 dirham shirt. Qambar obviously is, living with Imam Ali, he knows, he says, Anta awla bihi ya amir al-mu'minin. You should wear the nicer shirt. And interestingly, Qamar didn't just say because you're Imam. He says that تَسْعَدُ الْمِنْبَرَ وَتَخْطُبُ النَّاسِ. He says you're going to ascend the minbar, you're going to address the people. It's good for you to actually have the nicer clothes. And sometimes people respect that. I don't know what the nicer clothes are. You say, you want to wear the Lacoste shirt. I have a Lacoste shirt and then you have a no-name brand shirt. Whatever. Walmart brand shirt and then you have the nice designer name shirt. Imam says, no, Qambar. You take the designer shirt. You take the nicer shirt. You take the more expensive shirt. Why? He says, Ya Qambar, anta shabun wa laka sharratu shabab. You're young, and for you is what? Are the needs of a younger person. Are the desires of a younger person. Yeah, maybe I'm not as aesthetically inclined, but my younger person wants to look nice. Okay. I spend a little bit more on his or her clothing than I do my own. There's nothing wrong with that. I only buy my shoes, no name brand, $30. So if you buy, Jordans for $250, then you are materialistic, whatever. No, maybe he's a young person, he likes to look nice. Now there's a whole conversation to be had about consumerism and israf and all those things. Fine, no problem. I'm not telling your kids to go waste their money, buy $500 Chanel bags or whatever. No, that's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying that if your younger person wants to attend to things that are appealing to them, that's okay. So long as it's within the bounds of the Sharia, it is okay. Allow them to enjoy themselves. Usually after these kind of talks, parents come to me, you don't know my son, he doesn't do his homework, he's playing all day and night. Oh, my daughter's on social media, always on TikTok, always on. I'm not endorsing them spending time doing things that are not productive. Well, all I'm saying is that there isn't a need to repress their youth and using that as an excuse for them to be more Muslim, more mu'min. Imam is saying, no, Qambar, you wear the nicer shirt. So if your child wants something, that is, even if it's the embellishments of the dunya, so long as it doesn't exceed the Sharia, allow them. I'm working so hard, and after that I want to take this trip. I want to buy this car. I want to go to this. I want to buy this computer. Again, within reason, work with them. Then when you say, وَلَا تَقْرَبَ هَذِهِ الشَّجَرَةِ, then it's easier for them to say, I don't need to go near this tree. Why? Because the things that I want that make me happy, that are within the bounds, I'm allowed to enjoy them. Now imagine if you repress everything, and then this shajara is there. And this shajara, you can say, we translate into the temptations of the world that we know that are not acceptable, those things that are out of the bounds of the Sharia, the haram. Now when those things come, the person already doesn't have anything. Why not go for that? We'll speak about this inshallah more tomorrow night as we continue in the third principle. We only got one more principle tonight. Alhamdulillah, there's a lot of depth in these things. We want to make sure that we don't just, willy-nilly pass by them. But again, I apologize. It's because of my lack of articulation that we're not able to make more progress. Inshallah, tomorrow we'll conclude this conversation. And let's inshallah transition to a short musibah. Salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. If it's possible to just dim the lights for a few minutes, we remember the tragedy of Ahlul Bayt. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعجل فرجهم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. Say, there's no day like your day, Ya Aba Abdullah. There's no day like the day of Ashura, Ya Aba Abdullah. When we look to the tradition, we recite the musibah of Ahlul Bayt, a lot of it is from the observations of people who were there, who were viewing, sometimes coming from the words of Ahlul Bayt themselves. In some traditions, it's come that when the caravan of Ahlul Bayt were leaving Karbala and to continue on this journey of imprisonment, they say Lady Sakina has a vision as she's leaving, and she puts into words what she sees in this vision in her bidding of farewell to the shuhada of Karbala. شيعتي ما إن شربتم ري عذب فاذكروني. She sees her father in her vision, in her dreams, The Imam is giving instructions. My followers, my lovers, ما إن شربتم ري عذب فاذكروني أو سمعتم بغريب أو شهيد فاندبوني. My lovers, when you drink water, remember not to forget my severe thirst. Whenever you hear of a stranger or martyr, remember to engage in my mourning, lament me. وأنا السبت الذي من غير جرم قتلوني وبجرد الخيل بعد القتل عمدا سحقوني. Who am I? I am that same grandson of the Prophet who was martyred without sin. But not only was I killed after my martyrdom, they intentionally trampled my body. ليتكم في يوم عاشوراء جميعا تنظروني. My lovers, how I wish you were all present of the day of Ashura and witness. What will we have witnessed, Ya Hussein? كيف أستسقي لطفلي فأبوا أن يرحموني. You would have seen how I requested water for my newborn, how they failed to have mercy on him. وسقوه بسهم بغي عوض الماء المعين. Instead of water, they quenched his thirst with an arrow. يا لرزي ومصعب هد أركان الجحون. What a great tragedy that the mountains shook and were destroyed after hearing them. ويلهم قد جرحوا قلب رسول الثقلين. Woe unto them who injured the heart of the messenger of Thaqalain. فلعنوهم ما استطعتم شيعتي في كل حين. My lovers, ask Allah to remove His mercy from them in every moment. These are only a few examples of the pain that Ahlul Bayt endured. Sakina not only has to witness how the body of her father is decapitated, the head accompanies them in these journeys, but even in her dreams she sees her father in these same scenes. How can we begin to realize the pains of Ahlul Bayt? How much love a daughter has for her father? Can you even imagine those last memories being of the father laying down, taking the final breaths, sending salams, but instead of family consoling and surrounding, those wretched enemies surround Imam, each of them delivering blows from whatever they have. Those with spears send their spears, those with arrows strike with arrows, those with swords deliver blows with swords, those with the stones send their stones, and Our Lady Sakina just has to sit and observe. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. يا حسين 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 يا حسين
उठो सकीना चलो करबला, उठो सकीना चलो करबला, छोटी सी तुरबत पैमाने कहा, उठो सकीना चलो करबला, उठो सकीना चलें करबला, छोटी सी तुरबत पैमाने कहा, उठो सकीना चलें करबला, मुझे शाहज़ादी तुम्हारी कसम نہ رکھوں گی زندہ سے باہر قدم. سفر کی اب ہوتی ہے تیاریاں, اماری میں بیٹھے ہیں اہل حرم. غربت کا میری تمہیں واسطہ, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں بلا. مجھے یاد اصغر کی ہے بے کسی, لحد سے وہ میت نکالی گئی. اکیلے میں رہنے نہ دوں گی تمہیں, بھروسہ نہیں شامیوں کا کوئی. رہتے ہیں چاروں طرف اشقیاء, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. کہانی پدر کی سناؤں گی میں, اگر نیند آئی سلاؤں گی میں. اکیلے نہ ناقے پہ بیٹھو گی تم, تمہیں ساتھ اپنے بٹھاؤں گی میں. اب تو رسن میں نہ ہوگا گلا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا, نہ چلیں کربلا. بڑی دیر ٹھہری ہے دربار میں, یہاں پر نہ روکو زیادہ انہیں, کہ پہلو پہ ایک ہاتھ رکھے ہوئے صدا دے رہی ہے سکینہ تمہیں. لینے کو آئی ہے خود فاطمہ, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت کہا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں بلا. وہ پہلے کے جیسی تو غربت نہیں, اے بی بی ہماری وہ حالت نہیں. تمہیں شامیوں سے اب اے میری جان کفن مانگنے کی ضرورت نہیں. لو مل گئی ہے تمہاری ردا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں بلا. یہ شامی کہاں تم کو بہلائیں گے, تمہاری لحد پر نہیں آئیں گے. رہے گا اندھیرا ہی زندان میں, حرم جب یہاں سے چلے جائیں گے. کون آئے گا پھر جلانے دیا, اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا. چھوٹی سی تربت پہ ماں نے کہا, سکینہ کربلا. مجھے مار ڈالے گا بس یہی غم, کمر میں ہے بیٹی تمہاری جو خم ورم بازوؤں کا مجھے یاد ہے تمہیں تو دکھائی بھی دیتا ہے کم اکبر سے بی بی ملے گی شفا اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا چھوٹی سی تربت پیمانے کا غار اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا اٹھو سکینہ چلیں کربلا یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین یا حسین
جزاک اللہ خیرہ salawat. Please get ready for a prayer, inshallah. It's salat time. Salawat. Allah.